Welcome to Life is Great, where every week we examine another universal value that is derived from Judaism in order to enhance your life in the best way possible. Good morning. One of the most important concepts that we talk about all the time in life is the concept of love. Who do you love? How do you find love? You're looking for love in all the wrong places. You know, love is one of those things that if you listen to the radio, almost every song speaks about love in some form. On television, movies, people stay up all night long thinking about their relationships. And because so many people have so much difficulty with love, it becomes the butt of so many jokes. You know, as one fellow was once stood up at his 20th anniversary of marriage, and he said, you know, being married to my wife for 20 years, well, it's gone by like 7 minutes underwater, right? So now, listen, we've got to stop and recognize it's not funny. The reality is, it's not funny. People are in a lot of pain. They're in a lot of pain because we use the word in the wrong way. People say, oh, I love that baseball team. I love that person. You don't want to say you love the person because you don't want to use it too often. But then if you don't use love enough, then it causes its own kind of pain and suffering. One fellow turned to his rabbi and he said, yeah, Rabbi, he's sitting there eating this fish. And he goes, I love fish. The rabbi says, you love the fish? You know, if you love the fish, you would take care of it, you'd feed it, you'd watch it. You love eating fish. In other words, you love yourself. That's what you love. So we've got to figure out, what exactly does it mean to love someone? And if we knew what love was, then perhaps we would know how to even fulfill the commandments in the Torah, right? The commandments of the Torah. There's a commandment to love your neighbor as yourself, to love a convert. And yes, there is even a commandment to love God. So I went to my favorite coffee bean, and I asked several of you to define what love is. I asked, who do you love? Why do you love them? Give me a definition of love. Let's see what you said. Who do you love?
I love my fiance and my family.
Right. And why do you love them?
Because, well, I love my family because they're my blood, but I love my fiance because he's my soulmate.
How would you define love?
Love is doing anything for the person and making sure that they're happy, but not hurting yourself to keep them happy.
Who do you love?
I don't know yet.
Okay. Is there anybody that you love?
My family,
Why do you love them?
because they're my family. They've been around my whole life. They've been helping me growing up.
Okay. How would you define what love is?
I can't.
Is there anybody you love?
Yeah, my family,
And why do you love them?
because they're there for me and they help me through things in life. You know, they started me, they raised me, and they're there for me.
How would you define what love is?
Some unconditional feeling towards someone that you'll always have their back and do things for them, whether they're going to do them for you or not, I guess.
Can you command someone to love?
No.
Welcome back. So as you can see, several of you had a little difficulty actually defining what love was. You know, not everyone even understands who they should be loving. So let's figure out, let's come with a definition, a working definition. If the Almighty commands us in the Torah to love your neighbor as yourself, then that means that the word love and the concept must have not only a definition, but a working definition. It must be a concept that is so simple that a 13-year-old child should be able to use, okay? So the Torah actually gives us a definition of love. And in the Torah it says that love is an emotion one feels when they identify and appreciate the virtues in another. I'm going to say that again. Love is an emotion one feels when they identify and appreciate the virtues in another. Now, intuitively, that makes sense to us because it means that the more we focus on what's special about people, the more we will love them. I love my son not because he has a green booger hanging out of his nose, despite the fact he has a green booger hanging out of his nose. Looks like his father, right? There's many reasons why I love my son. So the more we learn to focus on virtues, the more we can love others. Now, it doesn't just go just by focusing on any old virtues, but really we have to identify, make a list of virtues. The more virtues I have in my list, if I stop and say, well, superficial virtues like, a person is good looking, a person has the ability to make money, a person has the ability to smile in the face of adversity, right? I mean, not that those are small virtues, but there's even deeper virtues. There's virtues like this person is kind to those people undeserving of kindness. This person is compassionate. This person is a generous person, an individual who never lets anyone get under their skin. They never get angry. These are virtues. If we are to identify, have a list of virtues, then when we go out and about, and go meet people, you will be able to identify them. And as you identify them, you can love them. I'll share with you a little story that happened to me. Several years ago, I went to Jerusalem. I went for one of these rabbi conferences. And, there were about 100 of my colleagues in this conference. And our rabbi, Rabbi Wyne of blessed memory, stood up and broke us up into groups of about 6. And in each group, there were a couple of people who you've known for 20 years. And then there were, another guy you might have met, you might have known him at one of these conferences, for a couple of years, but you didn't really spend so much time with him. And then there was always one person in each group that was totally fresh, nobody knew. And we played the love game. And love game is a great game to play. You go around the circle and you say a virtue about every person in the circle. So what happens is if the group is 6, if there's 6 of us, that means that you're going around, you're going to identify 5 different virtues in each person in the circle. But not only that, everyone's going to identify your virtues at least 5 times as well as they go around the circle. So after we go through this exercise, the rabbi pulls us all together, and he gets up there, he says, how's everybody feeling? And sure enough, everybody's feeling like $1 million because, everyone they were just told what a great guy they were, right? All the different virtues. And he said, okay, the people that you've known for a long time, how difficult was it to identify virtue? And the answer is it wasn't difficult at all. These are your friends. And you could identify pretty significant and pretty profound virtues in those people. What about the people who you really didn't know very well? Well, we identified virtues quickly as well. And what about the person who you just met? Was everyone able to identify a virtue in someone who they just met? And the answer was yes. So he used this exercise to show us that you can meet a person very quickly. And if you know you have to identify virtue, you will identify virtue. And then he told us, now pick up and go to your communities and tell everyone it's a mitzvah to do it. It's a commandment from the Torah to love your neighbor as yourself. And if love is the emotion one feels when they identify and appreciate virtues in another, we have to realize it is our godly commandment to go about our way, and every person you meet, stop and identify something special that's in them. Imagine how great your life will be when every person you meet, you look straight in their eyes and you can identify something special about them. And if you share with them what's so special about them, not only will you love them, guaranteed, they will love you back. We find that King Solomon writes in the book of Proverbs that just as a face is reflected back from a clear pond of water, so too is the heart reflected from one man to another. In other words, people respond to us on how we feel about them. If I look at someone and I'm identifying their virtues and I feel love and compassion for them, chances are they will feel a lot more love and compassion for me right back. And that is really the key, not only to learning how to love others, but learning how to become beloved by others. So now the rabbis of the Talmud explain that really there's 4 very special virtues that everyone can identify. Now, again, you can look at any virtue you want, but there are basically 4 reasons why we love other people. We love other people because they are sweet. We love them because they're good. We love them because they're beneficial to us. And yes, we love them because they love us. Let's go through each one of these. And there is a little bit of overlap into the concepts, but the essence of each one is fundamentally different. Let's start at the beginning. We love people because they're sweet, right? Someone gives you a piece of chocolate. You will think they are sweet. You'll love them, but you'll love them to the degree of chocolate. If they give you wisdom, if they help you out, you will love them more because it's a more significant virtue. There are some people who have a talent almost for making you feel good. They are sweet. You look at them and you say, what a sweet man. He makes me feel good. And because he makes me feel good, I'm attracted to him. Next one is if a person is good. You know, there are some people out there, they're just good eggs. They're good people. I might not even know them. I might not even benefit from them. But they're good people. You know they're moral and they're kind. You can see how they carry themselves, that they have dignity and self-respect and they're honest. And that individual, I might not be able to touch them even. I might not never even meet them, but I will love them. I will have affection for them because our souls are attracted to goodness. In the same way, listen, God created every human being in his image. And the essence of every soul is purity and goodness. And when we see goodness in others, it's like a magnet. We're drawn towards them. The third reason, the third virtue that we are attracted to, the third reason why we love others, is because they benefit us. Now, again, it's a funny thing. They might not make you feel good. And we know plenty of people out there who they don't make other people feel better, but they help others. They do things. Someone pays your mortgage. Someone, lends you money. Someone, in the office. You go to your workplace and there's a person there and they kind of clean up your mess after you. Or they're always willing to take your stuff and make that extra phone call for you. In other words, they might never even smile at you. But because you benefit from them, you say, I kind of need them. I kind of want them. And you're actually attracted to them. And finally, and one of the most special reasons why we love others is because they love us. Try this. Go over to someone and say to them, I really like you. And you will feel that immediately they will be more attracted to you. Now, again, you have to be honest about this whole thing. There's no manipulation over here. If you don't like the guy, don't say you like him. That doesn't work either because people know if you're being straight and they know if you're not being straight. So the essence of spirituality is truth. And you cannot have real spirituality if you're trying to fake people out. So it's not a function of, I'll pretend to be this way with this person and pretend to be that way with that person. No, that's not going to help you. What will help you is by being honest and straightforward and identifying virtues in a real sense, appreciating those virtues, and then allowing your emotions to go forward with this. And nonetheless, we're still left with a very, very important question. And that question is, can you really command someone to feel an emotion? Now, one of our respondents at our coffee bean said, absolutely not. You can't command someone to feel an emotion. Well, I will tell you experientially, that's not true. You can command someone to feel an emotion. Now, why? Because I raised a handful of children. And I will tell you that when children are young, they fight. And how many of you has this happened to? Where one of the child, a 6-year-old comes over to you and says, I hate my brother, my little brother. You say, oh, you don't hate your brother. He goes, no, he's a monster. I hate him. I go, okay, well, what did he do? He took my chair. You're like, oh, yeah, he really is a monster. No, honey, you got to love your brother. I hate my brother. And finally, you lose your cool a little bit. You say, no, you're going to love your brother. Now, as parents, we command our children to feel emotions. Perhaps more accurately, it's not really commanding the emotion as much as we're commanding a thought or a behavior. And we have a lot more control over our thoughts and our behaviors than we do emotions. Emotions are products of thoughts and behaviors. But if a person says, I am going to think X, so then that thought will lead to a behavior, which will lead to an emotion. And I think for a moment, a black flag with a skull and crossbones on it. Now that should conjure up an emotion to you, right? All of a sudden you're, oh, pirates, ooh, I should be a little afraid. I really don't care about pirates. I'm not so afraid. But if I put a picture in my mind, I get a thought, and if I back it up with an action, then I'll have an emotion. So when the Almighty commands us in the Torah, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, perhaps more accurately than saying God's commanding us on an emotion, is He's commanding us on a thought, on a behavior, to focus on the virtues of others. And the more I focus on virtues, then the more I will love them. Well, that's perhaps a more accurate way of approaching the subject matter. Okay, so just to summarize what we've been talking about, love is one of the most important concepts that any of us can master in life. If we don't master it, we're in trouble. If we do master it, we will learn not only how to love others, but we will learn how to become beloved by others. How do we do it? First step is stop, identify, and appreciate the virtues in another. The more significant virtues we appreciate, the more we'll love. The less significant, the more superficial the virtues are, the less we will love. There is another aspect about teaching us how to love others, and that is the more we give to other people, the more we will love them. One time I bumped into a fellow, he was an educated professional man, and he turned to me and said, "Rabbi, the only thing I really want in my life is that my 10-year-old daughter should love me more than I love her." And I said, "Well, Fred, I got to tell you something. It just ain't going to happen." And listen, hate to be the bearer of bad news, but children don't love their parents as much as parents love their children. Never. The reason for this is because parents give to their children more than children give to their parents. And the more we give to another, the more we invest in them and the more we love them. We find in the Torah that the Hebrew word for love is ahava. And every Hebrew word is comprised of a root, a 2 or 3 letter root that means something and gives us insight into other words. And the root of the Hebrew word for love, ahava, is hav, which means to give. Because the more we give to another, the more we love them. So, just kind of summing up right now, I want to invite you to love your neighbor as yourself. And the more you love other people, the more virtues you will see in the Almighty, and the more you'll be able to love God as well. Again, it's not just a commandment to love people, it's a commandment to love God. So I have to see all the virtues that God has in my life. God, his primary virtue is He's a giver. He gives me my life. He gives me my thoughts. He gave me my family. He gave me my opportunities in life. And yes, there are those people who say, "I am what I made. I'm a self-made man." Okay, but if the Almighty did not will you into existence, then immediately you would cease to exist. So therefore, we have to recognize that every moment the Almighty wills us into existence. And that in and of itself is a great virtue. But then He gives us and gives to us and gives to us. And that's, if the more we focus on that, the more we focus on all the pleasures we're experiencing are a gift from the Almighty, the more we will love God. I just want to invite you to come on by my synagogue, Young Israel, Aish of Las Vegas, right here. And I promise we will do everything we can to make you feel welcome and part of our extended family. And don't go away. We'll be right back with the Rabbi's Inbox, where you have an opportunity to submit your questions to me, and we'll answer them on the air. Do you know someone who needs a little more happiness in their life? Maybe it's you who needs more happiness in your life. Yes, you've seen the Life is Great TV show. You perhaps have heard the Rabbi Show. But now it's time to get Life is Great, Revealing the 7 Secrets to a More Joyful You. This book was something tangible that you can give your friends and family, where they can keep by their bedside, take it on vacation, leaf through it page at a time or chunk of pages at a time, and each time they will learn another secret, another tool that they can use in order to get the absolute most out of life. What better present can you give your friends and family than the wisdom to live a better life? Welcome back to Life is Great and the Rabbi's Inbox. This is your opportunity to send me any question you wish. Just go to therabbishow.com, send me an email, and I will definitely respond to your question. If you're lucky enough, I might even read your question over the air, whether it be in this television show or on the Rabbi Show radio program. So let's go straight over to your questions. First one is, Dear Rabbi, when I was young, I lived a very troubled life. I have a very difficult time trusting people or even seeing the good in them. That keeps me alone most of the time, and I have great difficulty in making friends. How do I change that? Well, the first thing is, even though you might be often lonely, you are not alone in this problem. Boy, most people I know have some kind of difficulty making friends or really becoming part of a community in the fullest sense. So the first point is, don't be embarrassed by it. One should never be embarrassed by being alone or being lonely. As a matter of fact, loneliness is the first emotion that is mentioned in the Torah. When God said about Adam, it is not good for man to be alone. So don't ever be embarrassed about that. The next point is, these concepts are, they're easier talked about than done about. In other words, they take a lot of practice. I could bring Kobe Bryant in here and he'll show you how to, toss a free throw. But if you don't practice it 1,000 times, you will not be a good free throw shooter. So when we're talking about the concept of loving others, focusing on their virtues, it means practice, practice, practice. Start with small things. Look for easy virtues, things that you identify. If you enjoy watching people smile, or if you enjoy people, saying something nice about another person, or refraining from gossiping, identify a virtue and put it front and center of your mind, and just make it a point to notice it. Or, as I tell my children, in a related concept, every time you meet someone, make it your business to identify something good about them. That's practice. The more times you do it, the better you'll get at it, and people will respond to you, and they will be attracted back to you, especially if you tell them about their virtue. Okay? The next question is, Dear Rabbi, I'm very happy being single and not being married. I have heard you said that a single male is like being half a man. Why is that so? And aren't I better off being single and happy as opposed to being married and miserable? Okay, there's so much in this question. Oh my goodness. Okay, the first thing is that when I say being a single male is like being half a man, it's not me talking. That's the Torah. That's our Jewish tradition. Ancient Jewish wisdom speaks about how the fullness of a human being is living together with someone in having a meaningful, purposeful relationship. The highest form of meaningful, purposeful relationship is that of marriage. Because again, the concept of marriage is not that you have two people hanging around together. It's not having someone who you just always have a date with, but it's actually a combination of one person plus one person equals one person. That's really what a marriage is. It's having a full life partner, someone who you've joined with physically, spiritually, and emotionally in order to accomplish shared life goals. So if a person views marriage like that, you can see how you can go from literally being half a man to finding a life partner, and it's not that you will accomplish twice the amount, you'll accomplish 3 or 4 or 5 times the amount that you will accomplish as if you were doing it by yourself. The next point seems to contradict the first point, but the next point is you have to know a person can be single and live a very happy, meaningful life. 100%. The question is, if they find the right person, if they're open to finding the right person, will they live a better life? I am a big believer in marriage. I believe that people who are married, who share their lives with others in a meaningful way, are happier, more fulfilled people. Does not mean that you can't be single and happy. No, you can be single and happy and live a meaningful life. Not everyone meets the right person. But the first step in meeting the right person to share your life with is becoming the right person to share your life with. Think of a kind of person who you might want to spend your life with, and then think, why would that person want me? And then adjust yourself so that you would be the kind of person that another person would want to be with. And by sharing your life, it will be, I believe, much more meaningful and much, much more pleasurable. Just to kind of close off, there is a Jewish tale about a particular person who said, listen, I don't want the distractions of being married or raising a family. So I just want to study God's Torah and, live a quiet life. So he moved into the back of some shul. He straightened out some books for a living and kept the place clean, and never married. Studied and prayed every day, all day long. After 120 years when he died, he was expecting to go to heaven and be greeted by multitudes of angels and applause. What a special, wonderful man. All you did was pray and study Torah the entire day and kind of take care of a shul. Rather, he was met with a lot of disappointment and anger from the Almighty and from his ministering angels. And he didn't understand why. And finally, the angels told him, they said, wait a second, you realize that, yeah, it's true, you very rarely got angry, but what was there to get angry about anyway? If you were married and you had a bunch of little kids running around the house, then you would have been tested on whether or not to be angry or not get angry. And you probably would have failed many times and gotten angry, but there would have been several times that you would have stretched yourself and not gotten angry. Yes, it's true that you lived with complete trust in God, but yeah, you had trust in God that God would take care of your needs, but your needs were always so small and meager. What kind of test was that? If you got married, had children, had to support a family, there would have been times that you would have been looking at your children saying, oh my goodness, how do I find food to feed them and proper clothing and shelter? In which case you would have really had to stretch the amount of trust you had in the Almighty. So yes, your life would have been filled with many more failures, but it would have been filled with many, many more successful challenges that you acquired growth and purpose by investing in a relationship with another person. Okay, so just food for thought over there. Anyway, to close up, I want to thank you so much for joining me again on Life is Great. We'll see you again next week, again, the same channel at 8:30 in the morning, and I want to welcome you and invite you to come to Young Israel Aish of Las Vegas, my synagogue, where I promise we will make you feel right at home. And I want to bless you that you have a magnificent week. We'll see you next week on Life is Great.
The universal values that Rabbi Wyne shares with us, that he teaches, that he writes about in his book, Life is Great, that he talks about on the TV show, Life is Great, have made a big difference in how I live on a day-to-day basis. Do circumstances change? No. Do bad things not happen? No, they do. It's all in how I perceive them and deal with them. And I'm not the only one. I know of a lot of other people who feel the same way. And I've also been in learning sessions with Rabbi Wyne when a stranger will come up to him at, say, Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf, or at the supermarket if we're getting supplies to have for a class, and people will say, Rabbi, I heard your message and it was at just the right time, and it changed the way I look at things. It changed how I handle things. It doesn't have some miracle, pill message in it. It's real wisdom for real life situations. And it's making a big difference in lives. And one person at a time, we share these values, change the world.